Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we're going to do the weekly metagame breakdown for Timeless format on MTG Arena. I'm going to do best of one and best of three today. There's a lot of overlap in terms of the list, so we'll do a couple best of one decks, and then we'll cover a bunch of best of three decks. Some of the best of three decks like Gruul Eldrazi, Sorin Tell, they're pretty much the same for the best of one version, so I'll show the best of three, so you have access to sideboard if you enjoy playing best of three. I'm not going to cover stock lists that are unchanged by the new set. So like Belcher decks, Energy doesn't seem to have too much of a change in terms of some of the card selections. So we'll be focusing more on new stuff today just to see where the format kind of shook up. So the notable thing, we got a bunch of powerful lands: Ancient Tomb, Strip Mine, Eldrazi Temple, Gemstone Caverns. All very, very strong lands that are changing up the meta a bit in terms of what is playable. Similar in Historic, we saw big rise of Eldrazi decks in that format where Ancient Tomb and Strip Mine are banned. So kind of looking at best of one, Sorin Tell's the most prominent. Then we have Eldrazi, Oops All Spells, Mono Red, Stompy. Then you have your Energy, and then Eldrazi decks. I'll paste and timestamp all these deck lists in the video description so you can copy and paste as well. If you want to use Untap, the link is in the video description. For best of three, there's not enough data right now to give us a meta distribution. In terms of games played, for those interested, best of one for the last week, kind of coming on the cusp of the season turnover. Diamond and Mythic rank, 3,700 games of best of one, and then best of three was 2,000 games played. So not the largest cap, but we'll get some deck ideas here. So two best of one decks we want to start with. Selesnya Death and Taxes. 73%. So again, we're going to see two cards in a lot of decks here. We have Strip Mine, sacrifice, destroy target land. Notably, unlike Wasteland, which is restricted to non-basics, Strip Mine can hit any land. So you kind of cut your opponent off lands that way. We also have Ancient Tomb, adds 2 mana, but deals you 2 damage each time it gets tapped. So helps you kind of ramp up that way there. So with this deck here, you are playing a low. This one's actually got 22 lands, which is pretty high for these types of deck, or like for a timeless deck. You'll see some decks with like 14 lands. But Chrome Mox can get you ahead on mana. Thalia has a tax effect. Esper Sentinel tax to draw. Deathrite can deal just a kind of mini planeswalker. Mana ramps you, deals with graveyards, gains your life, drains. Swords for removal. Then we have Scythecat Cub. 2 mana, 2/2 trample. Landfall, land enters. You put a counter on target creature you control. It's the second time this ability resolves, you double the number of counters on that creature. So Fetch Lands does a nice job of enabling it right away. Anointed Peacekeeper as a way to tax your opponent's hand. Archon kind of stops all the Storm style decks. Knight of Reliquary can help you tutor up lands from your graveyard, and it gets bigger based on the number of lands you have. We have an Alchemy card in Wary Zone Guard. 3 mana, 3/3 enters tapped as survival, meaning at the beginning of your second main phase, if it's tapped, you return a land from your graveyard to the battlefield, and then it gets perpetually 1/1. So this is a way that you can rebuy Strip Mine every turn, and then just Strip Mine your opponent. Then you also have Ice Till Explorer, 4 mana, 2/4, that you can play additional lands, play lands from your graveyard, and then whenever you mill, or whenever you play a land, you mill a card. So kind of self-enabling in that respect. We then have Mono Green Eldrazi. So there's Gruul Eldrazi that's also being played in best of one. We'll cover that, like I said, in best of three. So this deck here, playing green cards, but the big thing here, we have Gemstone Caverns. If you're the second player, you can put this into play turn 0, kind of like a ley line by discarding a card. You have Ancient Tomb. You have Eldrazi Temple that adds 2 colorless for Eldrazi spells, Strip Mines, and then a bunch of forests. So kind of setting it up, you have Devourer of Destiny that can help you find these lands, Breaker of Creation, just hexproof from each color, Annihilator, kind of a big thing, gains you some life. Anti-Causal Vestige can be cast for Warp for 4. This also works with like the Eldrazi Temple, so it gets a cost reduction here. And then when it leaves the battlefield, you get to put into play a smaller thing based on the number of lands you have. Now this one here, because you're not like dedicated ramp, you will have fewer lands. It's just that some of your lands generate more mana. You have a Boreal Grazer, Kami that helps you put lands into play to get ahead early. Solar Transformer, Malevolent Rumble gives you Eldrazi tokens and then helps you find key stuff. It that heralds, nice play because you could generate 2 mana fairly easily on turn 1, and then this allows you to get cost reduction for your bigger stuff and an Anthem. That also works with all your Eldrazi Scion, or they Scions, they're spawns. Glaring Fresh Raker pings your opponent whenever colorless cards come in and makes you a bunch of tokens. And then you have Sowing Mycospawns, Blow Up Lands, Thought-Knot Seer for Hand Hate. So going to best of 3, we have like the amalgamation of every combo deck in Timeless into one. So this is Sorin Show and Tell. So you have the Show and Tell package, Show and Tell, not into Omniscience, just kind of play Big Fatty, Elenda, or Traxa, and then you have Sorin Tell, kind of the Sorin into Elenda. So just more ways to kind of bring out a large creature. You can do it as early as turn 1 in this deck with Ancient Tomb, Chrome Mox. Allows you to generate 3 mana on turn 1, which allows you to do the Show and Tell. You have Dark Ritual that also works there. Reanimate is another way to kind of bring back some of these large threats. Should they kind of be discarded or anything like that, you can reanimate Troll. A lot of ways to kind of work through that there. Stock Up also helps you dig to the combo. Gemstone Caverns, just when you're on the when you're on the draw, it lets you kind of get ahead of mana parity. Leyline for heavy discard decks, Disruptor Flute for kind of combo hate, and then Chalice of the Void for Lurrus Piles, Low to the Ground, anything that's trying to interact with you. You can put it on 0 and then they can't, like Grief You or Elementals, for example. We have Show and Tell, so nothing like too crazy, just kind of showing that Show and Tell is adapting to have access to Ancient Tomb as well. Again, similar to the other deck, you can Show and Tell on turn 1. You have some mana drains. This one's a Bant version, so you have access to swords here. Veil for protection. Cyber Siphoneer can rebuy you stuff. Sublime Epiphany can make copies. Triggered abilities, stuff like that. Just a flexible card. Works nice with the Hullbreaker Horrors. Can draw you more cards with the Traxa. This one here doesn't go full combo in the sense of deterministic, getting Approach the Second Sun. Just basically set it up, put a bunch of big stuff in, Hullbreaker can bounce anything, and then you kind of protect yourself that way. And then you have Carpet of Flowers for the blue-based matchups. Islands generates you a bunch of mana. Consign for Eldrazi decks, colorless decks. Fragment is cheap removal. Veil for protection. Corrosive Grip for the mirror, along with Force of Vigor. Commandeer can also be used just to kind of steal key cards, key things in the matchup there. You have Mysterized Village as a way to kind of make your Show and Tell uncounterable. Gruul Eldrazi, 68%. So Gruul, so a lot of similar cards. Secluded Courtyard is going to act as a colorless land that you name Eldrazi and then can produce colorless sources for you. Blast Zone is a tutorable card just for like the energy decks, kind of blow up stuff. Unclaimed Territory is similar to Secluded Courtyard. Cavern for uncounterable. Then you have your Ancient Tombs, your Eldrazi Temples, your Strip Mines, Ghost Quarters in here. Probably better off playing just the Strip Mines if the intent, because this leaves them a land afterwards where this one doesn't. So this might just be a budget consideration as they're trying to acquire the rest of the Strip Mines. With this version here, you have Chalice in the main, Kozilek's Command. Kozilek's Command is really sweet with Glaring Fresh Raker because the tokens each individually ping your opponent, do some nice damage that way there. You have Wasescape Battle Mage. So this one here, you can use its abilities with Unclaimed Territory and Secluded Courtyard. Add 1 mana, spend this mana to cast. So it's actually only the Secluded Courtyard that can do that. This one is not kind of cyclical where the Secluded Courtyard is. So this will allow you to bounce. You could also just play like another basic if you want to kind of give you green mana, but the green kicker exiles an artifact or enchantment, and then the blue kicker side bounces something. You have Eldrazi Linebreaker, so this is a more aggressive version of Eldrazi. Gives a creature a +XO and haste. It even of itself can push through a bunch of damage. The X is based on the number of Eldrazi's you control. Sowing Mycospawn, Thought-Knot Seer is ways to kind of find, like Mycospawn helps you find lands, blow up lands. Thought-Knot, Hand Hate, we mentioned the Vestige, and then Devour. Bojuka Bog is a tutorable graveyard hate. Dismember is cheap removal. Warping Whale can exile smaller things, counter sorceries, like notably Show and Tell, and then you can just make a token if needed, so just a modular spell. Graveyard Hate and Licensors, Torpor Orb for like energy, anything with a lot of ETB kind of effects. Stonebrain for combo hate, Disruptor Flute, combo hate, tax style effect. Mono white tokens, 64%. So this is kind of we're going to see two decks now that are referred to typically as the Stompy archetype in like Legacy. Stompy is usually a combination of Ancient Tomb, Chrome Mox, sometimes Lotus Petal, and then City of Traders. We don't have City of Traders here, but it's just a bunch of ways to generate 2 mana, so you kind of play 3 drops earlier. This one's kind of getting ahead on 2 drops, but you have Guide of Souls, Osselt's Pride, Ajani, Cottontail Caretaker can come into play, and when it does, you can pay 1 colorless mana, and you make a card in your hand for get Offspring, so comes in with an additional creature. When it comes in, a creature in your hand gets Offspring. So then whenever you cast that creature, you can pay 1 more mana and then get a copy of it. So order was mixed up on that one. Alchemy card. You have Felia for kind of Blink package, which Enchanter can blow up artifacts, enchantments. You have Exalted Sunborn. So this here is really cool because you can warp it, but if you give it with Cottontail Caretaker the Offspring, you make tokens. So for 2 mana, you can put into play. For 1 extra mana, you make tokens. It sees itself, so it makes 2 additional tokens, so you leave those bodies behind after. You have Starfield Shepherd, similar with Warp. You can either find in Plains, or you can go get Guide of Souls, Osselt's Pride. You have Ephemerate that you can also warp these and then blink them to get them back into play. Same with the Solitude lines. You actually have 2 more lands here in Razor Grass Ambush, just some removal. So you actually are 16 lands in this deck. Static Prison is removal, Containment Priest, anything trying to cheat into play stuff. You could also ephemerate their thing, and then when it comes back, it gets exiled with it, which is kind of a cool line. Disruptor Flute, like we mentioned, Archon for any deck that's looking to kind of play multiple spells, show and tell, stuff like that. And then the One Ring for the grindier matchups. And then we have Red Stompy, so Moon Stompy, so same idea, Ancient Tombs, Strip Mines, and then you have Chrome Mox. What you're trying to do with this deck here is either get Megas of Moon or Blood Moon out to lock your opponent out of the game. Strip Mine can get rid of basics, so you kind of eat away on that way there. This deck has a few more lands here. You have Sundering Eruption and Shatter Skull Smashing. You're not playing just 12 lands. We have Fury in here to blow up stuff, Bone Crusher Giant, Fable, just really strong 3 drops that you can get out earlier. Lelia's card advantage. Tursa's kind of, if you have multiple Blood Moons, stuff like that, you can get rid of. You have Chalice to lock them out. Chandra's a cool one, just kind of draw discard to go through your hand. And then you get to create just vehicles that can attack in every turn. And then with the artifact, with the ultimate, just to deal some damage. One ring for card advantage. Palantir for kind of the grindier matchups. You just get some card advantage, eventually potentially deal damage to your opponent. Pyroclasm for energy. Disruptor Flute for kind of combo hates. Vexing Bauble for any decks that's playing like 0 drops, Show and Tell, Omni decks. And then Ragavan when you want to get a little bit more aggressive against some of the slower decks. You can put some pressure on your opponent. But it's for the week. Let me know what you think of the format. I haven't had a chance to play this yet. I'm missing, you can see like a bunch of these. If we look at this, how many of these lines am I missing? I got 1 Strip Mine, no Ancient Tombs, I'm missing Megas, so there's a lot I gotta craft to kind of build out these decks, but let me know what you think of the format, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.